they announced 5 years ago that ZeniMax Online Studios was starting up, you knew that they were going to be working on an Elder Scrolls MMO. It was just kind of like one of those things that's been in the works for so long, you stop thinking it's real. So I was surprised when it finally was, you know, it's out in public now, they've committed to it.
When I first heard about an Elder Scrolls MMO, my initial reaction was sort of this weird combination of excitement and terror.
I'm mixed on how I feel about it. I think that there's potential for greatness, and I think there's potential for great disaster.
Awesome, about time. I think playing around, particularly in Skyrim, it always felt like it would be a much better experience if the other people wandering around were real people.
On hand, I'm super excited about an Elder Scrolls game, and I'm super excited to be able to once again go in a world and share that world with other people.
But MMO worlds generally have the sort of trade-off where in order to fit in all these different players, you kind of have to leave the world a little bit more sparse and barren. So the idea of, you know, experiencing this sort of wandering mentality with other players sounds like it could be really cool, but at the same time, I don't want to lose that density of lore and excitement and just discovery by, you know, by offering up that sort of compromise.
As the two things that I think are such a huge part of the Elder Scrolls success, and just sort of what makes that game feel like an Elder Scrolls game, whether it's Skyrim, Oblivion, or Morrowind, is the exteriors are gorgeous and invite you to explore.
But the idea that it's all of Tamriel and you can go anywhere from any of the games, I think it's kind of what I've been looking for years now.
You know, I play these games for the random encounters, just the random things that you find out in the wilds. And if you can encounter another live human being out in the middle of this vast tundra or forest or something like that, that could be really cool.
And I don't think you can do either of those things in an MMO. Either the abundance of just useless crap, like loot that's not really worth anything, and then the exteriors that look as gorgeous and inviting. It'll be difficult, I think, for them to retain the feel of Elder Scrolls with an MMO.
But at the same time, there's also this sense that some of the things that make Elder Scrolls games special will not appear in an MMO version, such as, you know, a chance to really affect the world around me. You know, that's less likely to happen, if not just completely unlikely, in an MMO version.
But I think there's an opportunity with this particularly to do stuff that's on a bigger scale, more than in typical MMOs where it's just like you have a spell effect that's directly in front of you in the combat. And I think, you know, if they could do something where there's as few instances as possible and the stuff is happening in the game world, I think there's a huge opportunity there.
What I definitely want to see carried over, and I think what lends itself best to the MMO, is the player-directed nature of the Elder Scrolls games.
I think the thing that they could really mess up is over-instancing it. I think, like, you know, pushing you into something and it's like, okay, now you were in a dungeon with 6 people, and like squeezing it down. I think there's a real opportunity to go and really have it be focused on a shared experience.
Bugs. Bethesda traditionally has problems releasing polished games that work exactly as you would expect right out of the box without problems. And that's the nature of big, ambitious games.
So I don't know if the game is going to be a little bit more strict about where you can go and creating these very, you know, carefully managed pathways.
I think that when you do open something up like this, you need to be super confident in the mythology and the lore that you're tapping into, and making sure that everyone understands how it fits contextually, because it's going to evolve. You're putting the power into the hands of the users way more with an MMO.
Personally, I spend the first hour and a half or 2 hours of any Elder Scrolls game finding cliffs and then jumping off them so that I can get my athletics skill built up.
Single-player open-world RPGs are more about just getting lost, wandering around and just discovering this world and learning about the world. I want to make sure that it's not, you know, just these carefully managed environments.
They need to be careful with bugs. I think they need to be careful with repetitive dialogue. I mean, they improved it with Skyrim, but there's still The NPC stuff, I think they need to be like super careful with, because the scale that they're working on with this, Skyrim was already huge, Oblivion was already huge. I think when you're working with a world that's as big as the whole universe of Elder Scrolls, there's a lot that they need to do to make it feel like you're somewhere special and that the people that you're interacting with are different and not just relying on the human players to provide that.
People don't play these games for like the real, just like hand-to-hand feel of combat, the craziness of the magic. We play these games for the world, for the environment, the lore, the fiction, everything in there. I think if they can really tighten up the combat and make it just feel that much more intense, make it feel that much more just, I don't know, immediate, I think that could seriously do wonders.
The biggest thing I would want to see in the Elder Scrolls MMO is make sure that everything I'm doing feels a little bit different from the last thing I did, so that it always remains fresh, so it doesn't feel like I'm just grinding for experience or I'm just doing quests to get quests out of the way to move on to the next quest that feels exactly the same. Skyrim really overcame that, and if they can translate that into the online environment, then I'd be a happy camper.